This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer sitting in tonight for Dan Rather, who's on assignment in West Germany. Good evening. Well, President Bush held a surprise news conference today, the first one of his presidency, and it touched on everything from taxes and the savings and loan crisis to foreign policy. White House correspondent Leslie Stahl has our report.
Despite laryngitis and a cold, President Bush finished his first week on the job with a very un-Reagan-like 45 minutes of questions and answers. Topic A, his pledge of no new taxes.
Is that a one-year pledge, a two-year pledge, a four-year pledge?
I'd like it to be a four-year pledge.
Is it a four-year pledge?
I'd like it to be a four-year pledge, yeah.
But he would not rule out a new user fee on deposits in banks and S&Ls, a fee that looks and sounds a lot like a tax increase. That option has whipped up so much controversy, the president felt compelled to assure depositors worried about the solvency of the system.
The savings and loans deposits are backed by the full faith and credit of the government, and they are sound, they are good.
Mr. Bush, who's made much of offering a friendly hand to Congress, announced that he would not criticize or oppose a 50% congressional pay raise despite widespread public opposition.
I do support it. A raise is overdue. There's no question about that.
On foreign policy, he insisted that he is not dragging his feet in U.S.-Soviet relations, but acknowledged that he is slowing down and reevaluating before scheduling a summit with Mikhail Gorbachev.
We're going to be out front. There's no reason to suggest that all we have to do is react to a speech by the General Secretary. I want to take the offense in moving this relationship forward.
The news conference had its light moments, too, the president enjoying a little press room gamesmanship.
Hey, you already had a follow-up. Nice try. Read it.
The president said he's enjoyed his first week, the wonder of it all, as he put it, but he senses the honeymoon is coming to an end.
Smile and enjoy it while you can, because I can already sense, looking forward to a little more confrontation out there. But no, I think it's been a wonderfully harmonious week, and these are just little ripples on the surface of an otherwise calm pond.
There was criticism that the Bush team stumbled badly on the S&L issue and that the president got off to a slow start. But Mr. Bush gave himself a medal for his first week and said after 8 years as number 2, he likes being number 1. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
Mr. Bush was asked what his first major foreign policy initiative will be today, and he said he can't tell yet. Bill Plant at the State Department has more on that now.
James A. Baker III, now formally sworn in as Secretary of State, sits down to a full plate of foreign policy problems. But there are still a lot of vacant seats at the table. The foreign policy establishment and the rest of the world have been waiting since Election Day to find out what the new administration intends to do, watching for the new appointments which will give them clues to the Bush-Baker policies. But so far, only a handful of top policy-making appointments at the State Department, and today, the president was still counseling patience.
No, I don't want to play defense, and I don't want to look like we're foot-dragging, just waiting around to let others set the agenda. But prudence is the order of the day.
But it's not just prudence and policy reviews at State, it's personnel.
Until you get the people and the process done, you're not really going to know what the policy is.
Only 3 of 5 assistant secretaries responsible for various areas of the world are on the job. Still missing? New appointments for Latin America, where problems like Noriega, the Contras, and the debt crisis await new initiatives, and the Middle East, where Israel and the PLO wait to see what the Bush administration has to say to Yasser Arafat. While everyone expects some of James Baker's policies to differ from his predecessors, at this point, there are few signals.
The problem will be getting people into place in the proper positions to do that. The president himself cannot send all of the signals.
Perhaps, says one old hand, too much was expected of this friendly takeover transition.
We expected this one to be off and running and in place. And in perception, it doesn't appear to be.
Sources say Baker will name more of his key players on Monday. But since no one will be allowed to make policy decisions until he or she is confirmed by the Senate, that means it will still be many weeks before the Bush-Baker foreign policy gets into gear. Bill Plant, CBS News, the State Department.
The investigation of defense contract fraud inside and outside the Pentagon produced more guilty pleas today and took a new direction. indications of illegal campaign donations to members of Congress. Eric Engberg now with our report on that.
The first Pentagon official to be convicted in the investigation of large-scale fraud in defense contracting, Jack Sherman, is a mid-level contracting officer who took $43,000 in bribes to supply inside information to contractors. Sherman, who pleaded guilty to 2 felony counts, is now helping prosecutors nail others. Amid signs, the investigation is turning up widespread fraud in Pentagon contracting.
It's going to be a long time before this investigation is concluded, and I expect there'll be additional indictments coming in the next few months.
In a separate focus of the case, attempts to buy influence with Congress, 2 men connected with the computer giant Unisys pleaded guilty to violating federal election laws. Robert Barrett, a former Unisys employee, and Joseph Hill, a self-employed consultant, both admitted to funneling illegal campaign contributions to House and Senate candidates on orders from higher-ups at Unisys. Among the recipients, all of whom claimed ignorance of the scam, Congressman Roy Dyson, Bill Chappell, and Richard Ray, and Senator James Sasser of Tennessee. Another congressman, William Dickinson, was out of the country today. Sasser today sent back the $1,000 contribution he received. Investigators made it clear Unisys isn't the only big defense contractor under scrutiny.
This is a major investigation, and I think that when the final results come out, you're going to feel the same way.
In court papers, prosecutors offer a glimpse inside the conspiracy. Unisys, they say, would have some unnamed people write checks and leave the dates off them. Then someone inside the company would decide what candidates to funnel money to. Only then would dates be marked on the checks. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Washington.
Political extremist Lyndon Larouche was sentenced in Alexandria, Virginia today to 15 years in prison. The frequent presidential candidate was convicted of federal tax fraud and failing to repay more than $30 million in loans from his political supporters. Several of LaRouche's top aides were also convicted. Well, still to come on the CBS Evening News, Anthony Mason on Sir Thomas Sopwith, whose fighter planes beat both the Red Baron and Adolf Hitler. And Bob McNamara with some big bird news at Fort Worth Stock Show.
What do you think, an ostrich?
Freedent's the one. If you've got dental work, you've got 3 great reasons to chew Freedent gum. You know Freedent won't stick to your dental work, and Freedent freshens your breath. But maybe you didn't know Freedent moistens your mouth. So if you hate a dry mouth like I do, chew Freedent.
Freedent's the one that took the stick out of gum, and Freedent moistens your mouth. Yeah, moistens your mouth, and freshens your breath while you chew.
Non-stick Freedent moistens your mouth and freshens your breath.
They've made Tylenol even better.
Gel caps are concentrated power.
They're solid, and they go down easier than capsules.
Tylenol gel caps are smaller than capsules, with extra-strength pain relief concentrated into a solid center under a smooth gelatin coating, so they're strong and easy to swallow.
Fantastic. Just fantastic.
Gel caps. Tylenol gel caps.
Powerful pain medicine.
Extra-strength Tylenol gel caps. It's not a capsule. It's better.
The low-priced Subaru Justy with 4-wheel drive. Think of it as a Range Rover that's more in your range.
Where does it hurt?
Here.
For indigestion and gas, nobody does as much as Extra Strength Maalox Plus. Its doctor-recommended formula neutralizes more than any leading antacid. Ask your doctor about Extra Strength Maalox Plus.
In the days just before his execution last Tuesday for killing a Florida girl, Theodore Bundy confessed to some 23 additional murders. One of those confessions named a teenager who disappeared in Utah as a victim. Well, today, John Blackstone reports searchers look for the grave.
It has been more than a decade since anyone has searched for the body of Sue Curtis, and no one has ever searched in this part of Utah before. But Ted Bundy's execution eve confessions have added Sue Curtis to his list of victims.
Maybe 50 yards, and there's the remains of a young woman who disappeared from Brigham Young University.
One of the areas best to look at is possibly in a wash with a steep incline where a body could have been thrown down and then just pushed dirt on top in a real quick manner.
Sue Curtis was 15 in the summer of 1975 when she vanished. Almost 14 years later, investigators have their first real clue to what became of her. Still, the search will be almost a work of archaeology, likely to go on for months. Sue Curtis's family lives just a few miles from the scene of the search.
What they really want now is that the remains can be located and she can be buried and that there can be some shred of dignity left.
Bundy's confession may finally allow investigators to close an old case and a family to close old wounds. John Blackstone, CBS News, Carbon County, Utah.
The government reported today that in spite of last summer's drought and the after effects of the stock market crash, the U.S. economy in 1988 turned in its best performance in 4 years. The Commerce Department said the gross national product grew at a healthy 3.8% rate. The spokesman said encouraging economic developments last year included progress in dealing with the trade deficit, a 14-year low in unemployment, and a sustained stock market recovery from the October 1987 collapse. After gaining more than 85 points this week, the stock market today closed above the 2,300 mark for the first time since the 1987 crash. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped almost 32 points today.
When I need a laxative, I use Dulcolax.
Doris Jones talks about Dulcolax.
I like Dulcolax because it's very mild and gentle and dependable.
Dulcolax, tablets and suppositories.
Dulcolax works every single time.
Do it yourself. Do it for yourself. Do yourself proud with Minwax and Wood. Get a beautiful color that's like no other.
With Minwax Wood Finish to highlight the grain.
And for lasting protection, it's absolute perfection.
Top it with fast-drying Minwax polyurethane.
It's easy, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Do yourself proud with Minwax and Wood.
Got a nice minty taste to it.
That's good.
Can you say that about your liquid antacid? If not, taste new Tums Liquid.
It has a nice taste to it. It's delicious. Tums tastes the best.
New Tums Liquid. It works, and it really tastes good.
Introducing Total Raisin Bran. Other Raisin Brans have only 1/4 as much vitamin nutrition. And eating a Raisin Bran with only 1/4 the vitamin nutrition you could get is like having Mount Rushmore.
Hey.
With only one president. New Total Raisin Bran is the only Raisin Bran with 100% of 11 vitamins and minerals. Total nutrition has finally come to Raisin Bran.
British aviator Sir Thomas Sopwith died today in England. He was 101. He was 16 when the Wright brothers flew for the first time. He took up flying shortly after that and went on to design a series of classic fighter planes, including the World War I legend, the Sopwith Camel. Anthony Mason reports.
The Sopwith Camel was a difficult fighter to fly, but Sir Thomas Sopwith designed it so it was even harder to shoot down. In World War I, the Camel shot more German planes out of the sky than any other Allied fighter. It was the first of 3 wars that Sopwith would help turn in his country's favor. In World War II, his Hawker Hurricane beat back the Luftwaffe in the Battle of Britain. And in the Falklands, the Harriers, which destroyed the Argentine Air Force, owed their existence to his foresight. Sir Thomas Octave Murdoch Sopwith taught himself to fly. He crashed on his first solo flight, but in 1910 earned only the 31st pilot's license to be issued in Britain. With the prize money he won in a cross-channel air race, he started the Sopwith Aviation Company. He designed scores of planes, but the Camel has become legend. In the comic strip Peanuts, Snoopy imagined his doghouse to be a Sopwith Camel as he dreamed of dueling the cursed Red Baron. It was a camel that ended the reign of the real Baron von Richthofen. The millions Sopwith made from his planes, he spent on his yachts. Twice during the 30s, he tried unsuccessfully to win the America's Cup for Britain. In retirement, Sir Thomas said it was impossible to pick his favorite fighter design.
It's rather like asking the father of a large family to pick out his favorite daughter.
Last year, on his 100th birthday, the Royal Air Force flew over the Sopwith home. He'd gone blind by then, but the hum of the old Camel engine was enough to make Sir Thomas smile. Anthony Mason, CBS News, London.
The white minority government of South Africa says it is holding discussions with Nelson Mandela about conditions for his release from prison. The government spokesman said simply freeing Mandela would cause rioting and deaths, but Mandela's lawyer said the government is just looking for excuses not to release the 70-year-old black opposition leader. Meantime, Mandela's wife, Winnie, has gotten into a controversy within the black community. Martha Teichner has that story.
Wherever Mrs. Mandela goes, the Mandela United Football Club goes. They are, in effect, her bodyguards. But many black leaders consider them no more than a gang of thugs and want the team disbanded, afraid they are damaging her husband's reputation and that of the outlawed African National Congress. Dislike for the football club first became public when the Mandela house burned down last July. Investigators concluded the fire was set as a reprisal against the team. In the latest incident, 4 Soweto teenagers were taken from this Methodist church-run refuge by the football team and held at Winnie Mandela's house, where they were reportedly badly beaten. After intense pressure from community leaders, 3 of the boys were freed. The 4th, a 14-year-old activist named Stompy, is missing. CBS News has repeatedly attempted to interview Winnie Mandela, but without success. She has admitted previously, however, that the boys were taken from the church home, but she insists it was for their own protection against sexual abuse.
It's a strange way to protect people by abducting them and then assaulting them and holding them against their will.
Even Archbishop Desmond Tutu thinks Mrs. Mandela's football club must go.
It's a very distressing situation, and I share the disquiet of the community.
It is believed that Nelson Mandela himself has appealed to his wife to disband the football club. The division she has caused in South Africa's activist community threatens to undermine her hard-won status as the First Lady of the anti-apartheid struggle. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Johannesburg.
Lech Wałęsa and other solidarity leaders met for 12 hours today with communist leaders in Poland, and tonight they set February 6th as the opening date for full-scale talks between the government and the opposition. The negotiations will include the question of restoring Solidarity's legal status. The union has been outlawed since 1981.
Putting the sun to work is my vision of the future. I believe solar-powered cars will be practical and necessary. Dow believes in my dream and has given me an open road to explore it. To discover and prove the car's worth, Dow backed me in races across Australia and over the Alps. As the dream comes closer, Dow is making the difference.
Dow lets you do great things.
Your home is really worth, how much it means to you. When it comes time to buy or sell, no one knows more or cares more about the American home than Better Homes and Gardens.
Gas pain, bloating. Gas-X has the strongest, fastest relief ingredient. Painful gas is like beer bubbles. Add the leading antacid. Add Gas-X. Only Gas-X gets rid of the gas. The strongest, fastest reliever for gas pain and bloating. Gas-X.
The low-priced Subaru Justy with 4-wheel drive. Think of it as a Range Rover that's more in your range.
U.S. relations with West Germany have been strained by the revelations about West German involvement in Libya's poison gas project. Today, German prosecutors identified 2 more companies that may have helped build the alleged chemical weapons plant. But that's not the only problem in a relationship that's shifting along with all the changes in East-West politics. Dan Rather is in West Germany today, reporting from NATO's front lines in Europe.
Nowhere is peace and war more critical than here. These pilots are ready for war. This is Zulu Alert. Every single day of the year, 4 F-15 Eagles, fueled and armed, wait at the end of the runway for any telltale flicker on a radar screen. This day was only practice, but every day is serious.
9P and a gun for a kill, and looking for a valid separation of 9,000 with opening V sub C if you defeat the threat and bug out.
With language from another world, Bulldog Squadron also daily prepares for war. It's the same for the high-tech Apache tank killers of the 6th Cavalry. The same for the watchers on the hilltops. The men of Black Horse, the 11th Cavalry, watch the Fulda Gap in central Germany. This, they say, is where the Russian tanks will come, if they come.
It's the same, too, here in Mörglereuth. The men of the 2nd Armored Cavalry monitor every tiny movement of their potential enemy. Watching the peace, they are preparing for war. For hundreds of men, West Germany is war. War without the carnage. Except now there's a problem.
For about 40 years, we've taken the maneuvers, and we've taken the low-level flights, and we've taken the several thousand nuclear weapons based on our soil, and it all went rather nicely until something happened.
What happened was Ramstein and then Ramscheid. They were the last straw. For most Germans, the presence of foreign soldiers was the price of German history. Tanks churned up the landscape, villages and towns were invaded. Peaceful streets and woodland became temporary air bases. But now, NATO noise, as they call it, had gone too far. And for a while, the planes were grounded. Military considerations got the planes back into the sky, but the damage was done.
The Germans are very sensitive to what they perceive as American pushiness.
So, when the United States decided to station a couple of hundred sophisticated Apache helicopters to fly day and night sorties into Wiesbaden, Germans objected again. But this time, the cry was sovereignty. Who runs Germany, was the question. Americans or Germans? And once again, relations deteriorated.
We are in a sensitive period. We're in a period of adjustment, both economically, militarily, and politically. And on top of all that, we have a very skilled and bold leader in the person of Gorbachev, who is capturing a great segment of European public opinion.
The Russians aren't the enemies anymore.
As a result, recruitment into the German army has dropped, and the government has begun advertisements with a difference.
Patriotism is very dangerous in Germany. It has a lot to do with our past.
So the message is comradeship and good food, and they're making people laugh. Whether or not it gets results, it does at least provide a respite from the daily images of Germany's role in helping Libya make and deliver chemical weapons, or the regular anniversary doses of painful history.
The Germans are struggling to work out their own identity, so it's obvious that there is going to be a little bit of tension.
In fact, Germans appear to be quite simply trapped between the anticipation, the preparation, and the consequences of war. Allied leaders' suspicions of Soviet overtures on weapons cuts have generated the latest issue here in Germany. Chancellor Kohl is being urged to install a new generation of battlefield nuclear weapons on German soil. Many Germans object because it is on German soil the weapons would be used.
So, however urgent Gaddafi's chemical plant may seem, it is only one of Germany's problems. And for the men who guard the border, tomorrow the Iron Curtain will still be here, and they will still peer nervously toward the east. In a moment, Bob Schieffer will have more of today's news.
Checking in. We interrupt this transaction for a reminder. The Discover card actually pays you cash back for every charge. Nice job, everybody. It pays to Discover.
Red Lobster presents the Lobster and Shrimp Combination Celebration. Two celebrated tastes, lobster and shrimp together. It's tender grilled shrimp. It's luscious rock lobster, langostinos that sizzle, shrimp scampi, and more. A celebration of 6 lobster and shrimp platters starting at just $7.95. Kids shrimp dinner, $1.95. Join the Lobster and Shrimp Combination Celebration at Red Lobster now. And get a half-pound of snow crab legs for just $3.95 with any entree.
Sometimes minor mouth pain can be major trouble. Maximum Strength Anbesol gives maximum strength relief on contact. So before you can say Tchaikovsky, the pain's gone. Maximum Strength Anbesol. It's major relief.
It took 2,000 years, but a revolutionary discovery is changing the way men think about coloring their gray hair. It's called Just for Men, from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men, and in 5 minutes, shampoo out. Your gray is blended away, leaving your natural-looking color. 5 minutes. Here, look at me. Just for Men leaves your hair looking healthy and fuller, and it won't fade or wash out. Just for Men, in the men's hair care section.
And it's time now for the latest news from the annual Fort Worth Fat Stock Show. And what's new is there's something new in the poultry barn. Bob McNamara has our report.
The Fort Worth Livestock Show. Every year, prize cattle, heavy horse trading, and something new for buckaroos. But never a critter here like this before.
They're mesmerized by it. Just to look at the ostrich, they'll sit there just gazing into its eyes, and they can't quite figure it out.
What do they eat? I mean, what do you feed an ostrich?
Graze them on grass, anything cows eat, and an ostrich can grow into real money.
A good breeding pair right now will sell for, a proven producers will sell for $40,000 to $50,000.
Today, Texans Kevin and Brenda Owen are 2 of just a few ostrich ranchers trying to make an industry fly. And though Texas is the biggest producer of the big birds, there are only 5,000 nationwide. But here where cattle and oil markets have gone bad, the hope is an unlikely bird could rescue some ranchers and farmers in trouble.
Right now, with the Texas economy the way it is, we've got to diversify if we're going to keep our head above water.
Imported mostly from South Africa now, there's little on an ostrich that doesn't sell. The feathers for everything from Las Vegas showgirls to computer dusters, the hides for belts and purses and cowboy boots. Boots that don't go for chicken feed, and these are the cheap ones.
It's a boot that someone strives to attain. It's the ultimate of skins, the Cadillac of skins, if you would.
Ostrich meat, 2 producers say, is low cholesterol, high protein.
The viable product from these birds is very, very, very promising.
Ow. Even though fertile ostrich eggs go for $700 now, and though some birds' behavior resembles Mean Street, not Sesame Street, the longhorn steer as a Texas symbol is in no danger of being replaced by the Lone Star Longneck unless a psychological barrier is shattered.
You know, you tell someone that you're going to the bank and ask to borrow money for an ostrich, and they do laugh.
But little by little, the ostrich is chipping into the Texas mindset.
There's so many people, that, kind of make jokes about it at first, and some of those people have called us up wanting to get into the business.
Still, the skeptics call them Texas chickens. But with Europe paying as high as $10 a pound on the drumstick,
Yeah!
There's pressure on ranchers here to head them up and move them out. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Cleburne, Texas.
That's the news. I'm Bob Schieffer. I'll be back here tomorrow. Dan Rather will come back on Monday. Good night.
This is CBS.